So over the last couple of months, we have been talking a lot about three countries: India, Pakistan, and America. And if you've been reading about these stories, there is a narrative that has taken shape that Pakistan is essentially playing the Trump administration much better than India is. How else can you explain that Pakistan has managed to get a lunch with Donald Trump for Field Marshal Asim Munir? They managed to get America interested in critical minerals exploration and oil exploration in Pakistan. And they've also managed to pitch themselves as a reliable counterterrorism partner for the United States. It's really a series of important PR successes for Pakistan. Meanwhile, India is clashing with the Trump administration publicly almost every day at this point in time. And it really does seem at times that India is losing a key battle against Pakistan and America. And that battle is one that involves accessing the Trump administration and the White House at the highest levels. Both nations are actually spending millions to access the Trump administration. But Pakistan is actually outspending India nearly 3-1 in this fight. In a report I just wrote for HT, we actually found out that Pakistan is spending $600,000 a month to hire a battery of 6 PR and lobbying firms to fight for its interests in Washington, D.C. Meanwhile, India, which is a country that is 11 times the size of Pakistan's economy, spends only $225,000 a month. Now, we've got to understand why that's important. In India, lobbying is illegal, but in America, it is a feature of power politics. In exchange for a hefty fee, elite lobbying firms in Washington, D.C. will help foreign governments shape their narratives and gain access to the hallways of power in America. Pretty much every major country with a diplomatic presence in Washington, D.C. hires these firms. You can bet on it. And Pakistan has hired 6 of these firms to lobby it for it in DC. Now, Pakistan spends a staggering $600,000 a month, or really 5.2 crore rupees, on these lobbying firms. And this 3-1 spending advantage over India could actually be getting it some key benefits. Like I said, it's made key inroads into the Trump administration. You've secured a meeting for Field Marshal Asim Munir with President Trump. You've managed to get Washington interested in everything from critical minerals to counterterrorism cooperation. And a lot of that success for Pakistan may actually be chalked up to the fact that it spends money on lobbying firms with deep ties to President Trump. Let's actually just take a look at some of these firms that I'm talking about. At the top of this list is Orchid Advisors LLC, which is being paid $250,000 a month to secure Pakistan's access to the Trump administration as well as the World Bank and the IMF, because it has to get bailouts as well. Now, just to be clear, Pakistan spends more on this one firm than India spends on its entire lobbying effort in DC. Now, Orchid Advisors has also hired Squire Patton Boggs, one of Washington DC's most connected legal firms, as a subcontractor to basically provide legal support and to help reach out to US lawmakers to strengthen US-Pakistan relations. The next firm is Seed & Law, which is again one of Pakistan's top lobbying firms. It is paid $200,000 a month, and it is led by Robert Seydin, who used to be a political investigator for Donald Trump's presidential campaigns. There's also Javelin Advisors, which is another firm that lobbies for Pakistan. Now, this firm was actually founded by Trump's former bodyguard, Keith Schiller, and the former Trump Organization executive, George Soryal. Now, if you look at Javelin's contract with Pakistan, it has actually agreed to push Pakistan's narrative on India and on Kashmir to the White House and to Congress. These are some of the most powerful bodies in the United States. And you might ask how we know about this. Well, one of the nice things about covering the story is that all of these filings, all of these contracts are publicly available on the Department of Justice website. You can go and find them at this point in time. Now, these two firms have been perhaps very, very successful in helping Pakistan. Because if you read the contract very closely, they actually agreed to help Pakistan reduce the 30% tariff rate it was facing from the Trump administration back in April. They've actually succeeded in that. The tariff rate Pakistan now faces is 19% because of the trade deal that was signed with the Trump administration in July. You also will notice in one of these contracts that they agreed to pitch Pakistan as a critical minerals cooperation partner with the Americans, and they have managed to succeed in getting Washington to pay attention to Pakistan on this front. Now, apart from these two firms, Pakistan also spends $150,000 a month on Corvus PR. Now, this is a strategic communications firm. It handles narratives, and it was most famously hired by Saudi Arabia to repair its image in America after the 9/11 attacks, which says something about their clientele and their skill. So all in all, Pakistan spends $600,000 a month on 6 firms that have basically helped it make deep inroads into the Trump administration. Now, added to all of this is the reports we've seen on Pakistan spending money to get access to Trump's financial businesses like World Liberty Financial. Now, this is happening even when, I would remind you, Pakistan is struggling with a massive economic crisis at home. The flip side, of course, of all of this is that India is spending just $225,000 a month on 2 firms. The first firm is SHW Partners. This is a firm that India pays $150,000 a month for its services, and it's led by one man, Jason Miller. Now, Jason Miller has been a very close associate of Trump in the past. He worked on his 2016, 2020, and 2024 political campaigns. Now, Miller is a deeply controversial figure in American politics. He actually could not join the first Trump administration due to his extramarital affair with another Trump staff member. Miller has also been accused of rape and is facing legal proceedings at this time. Despite that, India has hired him because of his supposedly close ties to Trump. India has also hired Mercury Global Affairs, a lobbying firm that used to actually employ the current White House Chief of Staff, Susie Wiles. Again, someone with a direct line to President Trump. Now, India spent $75,000 a month on Mercury, and that brings India's total lobbying spending to $225,000 a month. That is, again, as I said, almost 3 times less than what Pakistan spends. Now, some people will tell you that spending more money on lobbying really doesn't make much of a difference. I mean, Pakistan was spending more money than India over the last decade and still barely managed to get any foothold in Washington because America was scarred and burned by how Pakistan had treated it during the Afghanistan war. And that is true. But it's also true that Pakistan's 3-to-1 financial advantage does allow it to reach more decision makers in America. Remember that a lot of these firms are actually paid to promote Pakistan's narratives on India and on Kashmir to America's top decision makers. And on those questions, it absolutely does matter if Pakistan spends more, is able to reach larger constituencies and more influential people. So as the India-US relationship spirals into crisis, partly because of the Trump administration's policy on Pakistan, this is a story that we will have to watch extremely closely.
$25 करोड़ गरीब गरीबी को परास्त करके बाहर निकले।
For the good of our nation, let's work together and let's truly make America great again.
The fastest news breaks.
Requested PM saying that we will have to speak to Putin and to Zelensky.
The biggest news makers.
The relationship with India is probably the most important bilateral relationship the US will have for the rest of this century.
The capital delivered quite an election result today.
Expert analysis.
The million-dollar question today is how to stop this dance of death.
Ground reports.
I'm standing at the crossroad of the Kumbh Mela. Behind me are more than 100 entry ghats.
Long-form interviews.
Exclusionary politics is reflected in Manipur case as well. You don't bother because this is a small state.
Deep dive into burning issues.
It's often said DRC could be the richest country in the whole world. It's because of what sits underneath.
Why exactly did the US topple the Sheikh Hasina government?
HD videos. We don't just break news, we break it down.
$25 करोड़ गरीब गरीबी को परास्त करके बाहर निकले।
For the good of our nation, let's work together and let's truly make America great again.
The fastest news breaks.
Requested PM saying that we will have to speak to Putin and to Zelensky.
The biggest news makers.
The relationship with India is probably the most important bilateral relationship the US will have for the rest of this century.
The capital delivered quite an election result today.
Expert analysis.
The million-dollar question today is how to stop this dance of death.
Ground reports.
I'm standing at the crossroad of the Kumbh Mela. Behind me are more than 100 entry ghats.
Long-form interviews.
Exclusionary politics is reflected in Manipur case as well. You don't bother because this is a small state.
Deep dive into burning issues.
It's often said DRC could be the richest country in the whole world. It's because of what sits underneath.
Why exactly did the US topple the Sheikh Hasina government?
HD videos. We don't just break news, we break it down.